if you still have butterflies after 20, 30 years of marriage, trust me, that's not the norm. I think you are a unicorn. Like, you are an angel. You are from another planet. Like, some people, after a long period of time, longevity takes place in the marriage. People now begin to rebuild things. They now begin to look back into the past, things that have worked for them. How can they amplify each other? How can they be there for one another? But I would say also that the rest of a good relationship, it grows into contentment. Like, you are content with your spouse. I want to welcome you guys to House of Utterance today. This is me going solo. Juliana is not here in the studio. Hopefully, she'll join us soonest. So this is just I'm trying to just share my thought processes in view of a question I received, or we received. And the question is very simple. What are we to actually expect from long-term relationships with men? I think that question is actually directed to a man. So I'm not saying I can provide all the answers as to what to expect in long-term relationships like marriage, covenant-based relationships. Even though I know very clearly that the Bible has already set out the standard for us to love our wives, as Christ loved the church, and he gave himself for it. In that whole sense, that is already deep on its own. I don't need to elaborate much more on what the Bible has said in that regard. But I would just basically add, for practical purposes, that sometimes we realize that I hear people talk about, let me start this way. I hear people talk about the fact that I have never quarreled in my marriage. I have never had any issue with my wife. God forbid that I quarrel with my wife. We've never had this, we've never had that. We've been married for the past 25 years, no issues, no disagreements. I hear some fathers, some fathers of the faith and some top religious voices say things like this. But I just want to say that one of the things that you should not expect is that there will be no disagreements, right? If two angels come together and they marry and they are your pastors, thank God for them. It's really beautiful to have like so much peace in the marriage, no quarrels, no misunderstanding. I have never shouted on my wife in 35 years. I have never been angry. Angry is not of God. Those things are really wonderful. They are excellent things. But I would say that for some of us that I didn't court for long, basically. I met my wife somewhere around October, started trying to find out how I could get into her environment, just around her. Maybe like December, started talking, started dating officially maybe in December into January. By April, did my introduction. By August 1st, I did my traditional wedding. I now had to wait for 90 days, October 30th, before I did my white wedding. Then my wife started living with me from October 30th. So I may not have known her so much before we got married, but in that sense, I think I knew her enough to believe that this was the woman I wanted to spend the rest of my life with. Would I say I have not had challenges in my marriage? The answer is no. Right? The answer is yes. I have had challenges. I know that a lot of us also watching, we've had challenges that border on, simple things like maybe even praying with the children every morning, praying before we sleep, speaking in tongues with them, teaching them the Bible, and engaging with them, like just the basic things that fathers should be able to do, like releasing blessings over your children. Oh, when last did we really pray? When last did we really fast? We are not doing enough to help our children spiritually. I've had all of those challenges around. Okay, let's pray from 9 to 10, 1 hour prayer every day. Sometimes I'm tired, I sleep. Sometimes it's an issue for my wife. Sometimes it's not. All those things, especially around things of God. Sometimes we may have one or two issues around that. But what I'm basically trying to just say is that for some marriages, 7 years, 10 years, 14 years, some people feel like they felt the very first day. Their butterflies have not reduced in number. In fact, they don't just believe in touch. They go beyond touching their spouses and they go all out. Imagine all those sparks, all those electrifying moments, in the early area of marriage, when you're still trying to figure out your spouse, you're trying to understand them. For some people, they delved into the spark moment. Immediately, they got married. For other people, over time, they began to build. And I think that's like my own case. Over time, I began to build. I began to get more involved in my wife's personality, in my wife's person, in my wife's body. It took a while, maybe not too long, but as the years have gone by, I have become better at it. For some persons, as they jumped into it, they were so much good. In fact, I had a friend who told me, not necessarily a friend, but a brother, he was like, when he got married to his wife, one thing that they said they were not going to have kids for like 2 years. They wanted to try out all the experiments in the world. He said they've done it, they've did it, they've didn't it, they've done everything you can think of in different locations, different places, positions, all of those things. They've seen it all, they've done it all, they've sang in the choir, they've sang a lot of melodious songs and all that. That may not be somebody else's experience. Somebody else just jumped into marriage. The next thing, his wife was pregnant. As the wife got pregnant, he's thinking of his pregnant wife, he's thinking of bills, he's thinking of different things. Like, they never really had so much time to really explore one another. Others have chosen the pathway of just exploring themselves and all of that. But one thing I would actually say, if you're looking at long-term relationships, one, you have to be very realistic. And I'm going to just say something here that is written down. Commitment is not where the relationship ends up, right? That's the goal. People who maintain that spark, that spark and butterflies in their system, if you still have butterflies after 20, 30 years of marriage, trust me, that's not the norm. I think you are a unicorn. Like, you are an angel. You are from another planet. Like, some people, after a long period of time, longevity takes place in the marriage. People now begin to rebuild things. They now begin to look back into the past, things that have worked for them. How can they amplify each other? How can they be there for one another? But I would say also that the rest of a good relationship, it grows into contentment. Like, you are content with your spouse, you are happy with them, you appreciate them. There's a whole lot more teamwork. There's gratefulness. People are grateful for each other. They support each other. They are there for each other. You now understand your partner's predictable behavior. You can say that, oh, this is what Juliana, I can say, okay, this is what Juliana is going to do. At the beginning of every year, I can predict what my wife is going to do with her salary, her first fruit. Like, I can almost beat my head and say, this is the direction she's going. And I love her for it. Like, I'm happy. Like, she inspires me in that direction. I have not necessarily done so much of first fruiting, but with my permission as my wife's husband, I permit her, I allow her to really come into that fullness of that credence or of that relationship that she is building to God, building with God in terms of her own personal commitments in that particular area. I don't get in the middle of it. I just allow her to flow in what she believes works for her and all of that, which is also very, very important. So I would say that you may have butterflies year 1, year 2, year 3. You might have to trim the feathers of those butterflies. Or maybe year 4, the butterflies begin to lose their feathers. They are not flying as they ought to fly. They are becoming something else other than butterflies. So does it mean that your marriage is less of what it is when the butterflies are not butterflying as they used to butterfly? The answer is no. Sometimes you start out, different pressures, different thing happens to different men. Over time, men also begin to evolve. Women also begin to evolve. You cannot tell me now that maybe my father just turned 77, right? And I'm thinking, how has his butterflies metamorphosed? I think his butterflies may have metamorphosed beyond that whole gravitational sexual force, into something more of providing stability, providing succor, providing even financially, providing in terms of the emotional satisfaction, ensuring that he's spending these beautiful moments with his wife in peace and tranquility. They plan, okay, they want to travel, they want to do things, they are able to do the things that they want to do, spend time together, loving one another. And I think those are really beautiful moments. To expect a man at 70 or 75 or 80 to be as sexually productive as a man of 20, 25, I think that's purely irrational. It's irrational behavior. It's irrational behavior. Some men will tell you that even sexually, they may not even peak in their 20s. They may peak in their 40s. In their 40s, they're like mad dogs, roving all around, just trying to pull down, tear down, enter down, things like that. So it just depends on where you find yourself as a person, as a man, your ability to see how you can be a stable force. You can be a stable force for your wife. So we're talking about long-term relationships. Stability is what a lot of women seek. They don't want the boat to be ruptured. They want to feel emotional stability. And I can tell you for free, one of the things that makes every woman to blossom in her husband's house is emotional stability. If you rupture a woman's emotions, just be sure that you are damaging something that she really holds dear, and something that is responsible for how she would also be reacting to you, both in the short term and in the long term. So that's very, very key. Another thing I would also like to add basically is that I'm just using 7 years, as like a benchmark. I wrote something down here. Some people might say, okay, we've been 7 years married. It still feels like the honeymoon phase. Congratulations. For some other persons, they have moved from honeymoon phase into building phase. Imagine Nehemiah in the Bible, who was in a phase of building. I can just imagine, if he had a wife or a spouse, because that building project he was doing for God, and to protect his people was like a paramount task that they were carrying out. They were building day and night. That was like the core focus. You cannot expect somebody like Nehemiah, for example, at that point in time to be in a honeymoon phase. He was in a building phase. He was in a contract with his people, a contract with himself to make sure that they were able to build a fortress. They would build, they will prepare for battle, and they are still building. They are still building. They are still building. So if you have been able to sustain your marriage on a honeymoon phase, and you've done that for 7 years, I welcome you to the next 7 years. It's a possibility. Some people do honeymoon phase for 30 years even. Some people, their entire 45 years of marriage is a honeymoon phase. That is beautiful. And that is where some of our fathers in the faith, that's where they are when they say things like, oh, we've never quarreled, we've never shouted, I've never raised my voice, I've never done this, I've never done that. That is beautiful. But if you are the person, you've raised your voice, you've shouted, you've corrected, you've admonished, you've done all of those things, it doesn't make you less. You are on your journey, you are doing the right things, and God is touching you, God is blessing you, He's improving you in knowledge, in wisdom, in understanding with your spouse. That is still a wonderful thing, because for some men, our entire lives is more like a learning process, just learning the woman that God has given to us and appreciating them. And trust me, this necessarily is not just for men, it's also for women. Women sometimes will spend their entire life learning a man. People say, you can never understand a woman, or a woman is a book that you read the first page, but there's no last page. You continue reading it till you die, things like that. But I just want to say that if you have the honeymoon feeling 7 years, I welcome you into the next 21 years. Tell me at 28 years, whether you still have those honeymoon butterflies, in your belly feeling. And that's beautiful, if you have all of that. And I would say this. Somebody said lots of, when you have lots of those small touches, before it was not just the small, when you touch like this, it's like the transformer draws you close to itself, and you make sure that you step down the current and you do all of that, which is really beautiful. That's what God wants us to do. God does not want you to see your spouse as a furniture. And you may be thinking that maybe having sex is a bad thing, or being intimate is a terrible thing. It's not a terrible thing. It's a good thing. Create time for it. I've heard people, talk about, let's even have like a timetable. My wife once suggested that let's have a timetable, because it was like, man, this guy, he's not even looking in that direction and all that. Too many things are clouding his mind. It happens. And if it happens to you, it doesn't mean that you are not in this world. You're actually in this world. You've not done anything terrible to feel that way. Life is happening to different people in different circumstances at different levels. You are a purebred kind of a man. You are a man who is sure of himself. You are a man who is sure of his God. You are a man who is sure of his maker. You are a man who is sure. You are sure of your work. You are sure of your work. You are sure of your work, because God has given man work. God does not expect any man to be a burden to his wife or to his family. God expects us to provide that leadership to our families. God expects us to partner with our spouses. God expects us to lay ourselves down for our families, for our wives, just as Christ has modeled that same reality for the church. So that is the expectation of God. For some men, they can do that optimally still with the butterflies. For other men, they need you to plug in. You need to plug in. You need to prompt that man into that phase. But I believe that God will continue to give us the wisdom to be able to optimize our relationships, to be able to optimize our marriages. And if you're not optimizing properly, sometimes I haven't even optimized properly for months, even running into several months. I haven't optimized properly. It has not made me a terrible husband or a terrible person or a bad person. I'm not comparing my story to yours. My story is mine. I'm making my marriage better as much as I can. My wife is assisting me. We are doing the best that we can. So don't make another person's best your best. Let your best be a reflection of the God that you have on the inside of you and of the belief system and the trust that you know that you and your spouse, your wife, you are on the same journey. You are not on different journeys. Don't be that man that compares himself to his wife. I'm talking to somebody. Don't be that man. Don't be that man that compares. Don't live a life of comparison. No matter what's going on in your marriage right now, do not be that man that compares. Don't compare your results to her results. Put your results by faith in the hands of God. And don't forget, I would say one thing just before I wrap this up. Faith is not in the future. I have faith for a beautiful marriage now. Sorry, I'm attending a Bible class. It's really reflecting on the things that I say. I have faith for a sexually explosive marriage now. I believe it. I walk towards it because that's the proof that you believe in the first place. I walk towards it. I put myself in a mindset where I'm giving my best always, starting now. Don't wait to give your best in the future. Give your best now. Every opportunity that you have to do something great for your wife, for your spouse, to make them not feel like 10 years with you is like 100 years. Evolve as a man. Evolve. Become a new you. When we say some of these things of a man becoming a new person, a new creature, a new mindset, people be like, oh, this man is a simp. He's a woman pleaser. He's a woman rapper. No. Your wife is your responsibility. It is your job to tend the garden. It is your job to tend that garden. And your eyes have to be fixated on the things around. You see other women looking bright and beautiful. Somebody's tending that garden. Tend yours. Don't go on a comparison trail. I used to know of a man who used to compare his wife. He would say, Joe, you are really very lucky. Look at your wife. I'm like, guy, go and tend your wife. Do you understand? Don't be looking at my wife and telling me how beautiful, how nice, how this, how that. You don't have a clue of what you are even saying because you don't know everything about her. You may just have a little idea of something, but you don't know her every side. So the one that God has given you, focus there. Make life beautiful, make life memorable. Create the experiences that you haven't created. Give yourself a goal. In fact, one of the things I've told myself this year, in terms of my marriage, is to just see how I can just continue to become a blessing to my wife. Everything I do, I don't be the reason why she would have to go through so much pain, so much heartache, so much stress. I try to lighten her burden, lighten her load any way that I can. I provide her support when I can, anytime I can. Sometimes I put myself under a lot of pressure just to make sure that she's feeling great, she's doing well. And she does that as well. She has shown time and time and time again, that she holds nothing back. When she's right all in, she's all in. So be that person. Tend your garden. Don't be looking elsewhere. You might think it's brighter on the other side. It's not always brighter. It's just how bright you make what you have become. So become that man that brightens up his atmosphere, brighten up your wife, brighten up your children, pray with them, engage them. Don't just allow the school system to be the only input system into your children. Create that time. Run with your sons, ride bicycles with them, move around your neighborhood with them, engage with them, talk to them. Sometimes take them out, sit out with them, talk with them, know what's on their mind. You have a lot to do as a husband, as a father, and God is counting on you. on you, the man listening to me. God is especially counting on you to raise a new generation after his own kind, after his own thinking, after his own thought process, after his own value systems, after the Holy Spirit's direction. That's extremely key for every man to begin to refocus his energies. Let your butterflies find expression in your children. Butterflies are not just only meant for sexual expressions. If you understand the system of how a butterfly begins to blossom, you know that a butterfly did not just become a butterfly. It goes through several stages. You will pass through those stages in your marriage, in your sexual life, in raising your children, in almost everything that you do. So when we talk about butterflies in my stomach, feel that way for your children. For your parents, feel that way. Towards your spouse, your wife, feel that way. God is going to continue blessing you. And I just want to pray for one man out there who is really confused, who doesn't know what to do. I pray that the true essence of God himself will find expression in your life. Everything that has been rooted in your mind, that has blocked your reasoning pathway, that has blocked your faith walk pathway, that has blocked your anticipation pathway, that has blocked your belief system, that is making you feel less than righteous, less than the righteous person that you are. That thought process that the devil has planted around you to make you to doubt the true essence of your being. I trust God to create a new man in you, to create a new personality in you, and to give you the necessary tool sets, the skill sets, and the mindset for you to become the new creature, just as he has designed you. A creature that will be fruitful to his wife, a creature that will be fruitful to his children, a creature that will be fruitful to the community and to the world at large. God bless every man listening to this broadcast. I'll see you on the next video.